A lot of things on environment, a lot of things on ethics, governance, no bribery policies. All those things really came into play, and a lot of focus on foods, because a restaurant was a big part of the overall offering. So we did work across certain sectors. It wasn't just focused to running a hotel, right? And to that extent also, if you look at tourism is actually quite interesting, because it has everything. It has infrastructure, it has green mobility. It basically has all the points that you cover across industries. So I had a very good sense of sustainability, even before I started this venture. However, my problem with how people were perceiving sustainability was that they had very there were a lot of mindsets around it. There were certain industries that were going far ahead, like we talk about sustainability in fashion now, in there's clean beauty and everything. But there were a lot of sectors that were just using sustainability to sort of I mean, more like a CSR sort of an activity, I would say, right? So my issue with that was that it isn't very transparent right now for the entire world, and more important, it isn't accessible to people like us. So if I don't know about sustainability, I don't know anything about what I'm wearing, what I'm eating, what I'm breathing. I hardly know anything about it. I only know stuff that is published. That was my issue with sustainability, and eco ratings is the way that we are bringing very wide scale transparency to this sector, because the frameworks are designed already, and they are already everybody follows the UN 17 sustainable development goals, but they don't know how each one interplays with each other. There's no way of comparing two products. So with eco ratings, we decided, one, that we will rate only products at we will rate products, not companies, right? And secondly, we would be very transparent about the way we go about it. So what was the data we collected? What are the industry standards? What are the benchmarking and everything? All the data is given, even by the way, to the consumer. So that was the other thing that we wanted, that consumers like you and me can also see that. So now when that starts, people like us will start becoming intelligent about, oh, this fabric, this is tencel, so therefore it will be more sustainable than organic cotton, and so on and so forth, right? Those are the things where the knowledge is lacking right now, and I think that's what we were building with eco ratings.
So in the same light, like how does EcoRating measure the concrete impact of its platform on promoting ESG practices among businesses and consumers? Like, can you share a specific example of companies adapting their products or services based on your rating? Any one or two examples?
Okay, so again, nobody needs to adapt anything. It is that there is a particular product. Say I have this, water, this thing, a watering, can. Now I'm checking the sustainability of this particular product. Okay, so the first thing that it gives you is stock information, or information in real time about how sustainable this product is. All right. Now, if the company wants to improve its ratings, then obviously we do give them something called a need gap report, which they can use our recommendations to increase ratings. But that part of decarbonization and increasing ratings and so on and so forth is really not what eco ratings is after. Eco ratings is after telling you, people who are going to buy this, okay, how sustainable this product is. And if you can see, actually, this was launched in, this is COP28. So when you are already at a climate conference, as a consumer, I should know how sustainable is this, this thing. That's my entire point. So it's more around, firstly, telling you what is happening. And secondly, it is about adopting measures to become better.
Very good point, actually. So, like elaborating on your point, on your previous point, like EcoRating aligns its rating methodology with UN 17 SDGs, according to the information that was provided. How do you ensure your rating remains like relevant and adaptable to the ever evolving sustainability concerns and priorities? Like it's changing every day. So,
So that's a good question, because there are like a million. I mean, there are a whole host of frameworks that exist out there. But the best thing about this is that the all rating agencies which exist already, okay, like Standard and Poor, like MSCI, all these guys work on the sustainability principles only. Now there are various things like GRI standards, IBBS standards, or say our BRSR, which India adopts. But all of it is built on the principles of sustainability given by the United Nations. So because we have a technology platform, we can very quickly adapt to any framework, because in a sense the backbone is the SDGs. So once you've covered all the points in the SDGs, in fact we have mapped the points that we cover vis-a-vis the points that are covered by the likes of S&P, and we see that our data and the points that we cover are actually more, because we are trying to cover all the points under sustainability which is given by the SDGs. Certain frameworks will take certain things into account. So for example, somebody may say, I want to follow ESG. Somebody may say, I only want carbon emission related data. Somebody would say, I want to measure social impact. All these are separate things, but as part of our technology tool, all of it is already integrated in it. So tomorrow, if suppose say the Bureau of Indian Standards comes up with a list of things on what makes a brand or a product eco-friendly, I can very quickly give that assessment as well, that as per the BIS, this is your rating. As per the SDG, this is your rating. As per the GRI, this is your rating. So my technology is very fluid because the backbone, like I said, is built on the SDGs, which is pretty much the backbone for all frameworks.
So speaking about SDGs, like how are the specific sub-indicators within each SDG weighted to arrive at the final rating? Like, are there any plans to expand the rating system to encompass additional sustainability aspects beyond the UN SDGs? Like anything other than that?
There is nothing beyond the UN SDGs in any case, right? There are no, nothing is prescribed, and the new set of UN SDGs will come after 2030. So till 2030, the 246 sub-indicators which are given by the United Nations are actually the most pervasive or the maximum number of data points that you can gather to give a particular rating. Now, for example, SDG 1, which is no poverty, right? Look at the number of people that the company has hired under the international poverty line. Okay, typically the data is pretty hard to get because you're looking at labor class people, right? Now, what do? We look at two metrics over here. So we look at the number, actually three. So we look at the number of people who are under a particular salary lab. So we take the salary slab to be about 20,000 rupees. So under 20,000, if there is anybody who is getting a salary under 20,000, that person is covered under this. Then we also check for the gender ratio. So we check whether how many women, how many men. And then we also check the average salary of the labor, and we compare that to the average salary of the labor in that particular industry. So for example, if you're looking at say rice manufacturing, so we will look at the operator level salary of people who work in factories in the rice mills, and we would compare that to the actual data or the actual salary that is paid by the client whom we are rating or the product whom we are rating, right? So these are the sort of sub indicators. So in one particular SDG, there could be 7, 8 sub indicators, and we cover about 3 or 4 of them, because just remember, ours is a pure tech play. So we don't ask the company for any data. That's a very, very important distinction of what we're doing. We don't base our rating on the basis of information that the company gives. We do our own audit. We don't ask the company for any information.
Actually, can you like briefly explain the machinery of this rating system once again? Like, a bit elaborate.
Sure. So the rating system is basically based on getting data from the World Wide Web, okay, which is passed through, or which has a lot of proprietary data like industry reports, etc., etc. This is basically passed through something that is called a large language model or an AI. It's basically artificial intelligence. Okay. So large generic artificial intelligence platforms exist. We coach them on sustainability parameters. Okay. We take a lot of data from the websites, from industry reports, etc., etc. We also use third party apps. So a lot of data is verified using Google Map, Google Earth, plastic tracking or waste tracking tools, traceability platforms, so where you can tell, which agriculture produce or is coming from where, or where the raw materials are based, etc., etc. So we use all these third party applications, and then the final rating is derived. And the final rating is derived, so like I told you, to give just a general example, suppose you, on an average, you are paying your rice mill worker 12,000 rupees, and the average in the industry is say 16,000 rupees. And obviously you're lower than standard, so you'll get a rating of 4, 5. If the rice standard is 16,000, you're paying them 18,000, then obviously you'll get a rating of 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on, so on, like that. So these are how the ratings are really comprised. But the entire machinery at the back end is basically it is called a generative AI platform. That's how it works.
So speaking about data, like how does eco-rating handle situations where data on certain sustainability factors are unavailable, like
Yeah.
for any particular service or product?
So that's actually the best use case of AI, right? Where the data is not there or is missing. Okay. So let me again give you a practical example. Say I'm looking at 3 hotels which are within 10 kilometers in Uttarakhand. Okay. Now I have the electricity bill for one of the hotels, but for the other two, I don't have any electricity bill. Okay. But from the web, I can get how many rooms they are. Correct? So, for example, if there is a 10-room property which has an electricity bill of 20,000 rupees, then what my AI will say that, okay, these two locations are also near the hotel which has the data point. What we will do is we will take the best data point. So, if suppose say 10 rooms के लिए 20,000 per month का bill आ रहा है, they will figure out that, okay, if the rooms are say 4, then the bill should be somewhere around 2,500 to 3,000. This is the sort of way that the AI comes into play. And that is why this particular business can only be done with AI, because a lot of the data sets and a lot of the information is missing. So then AI basically comes into play and looks at the best available information set that can be juxtaposed on the product that you are rating.
All right. So, like, are there any different kind of rating system or scales tailored for specific industries or product categories?
Uh, there are specific ratings that are available. There are actually energy, they have the star system, and sorry, not energy. Actually, cooling systems have a star rating. So do devices, mobile devices, etc. have it. So yes, they are specific, but then they look at very specific points. So they will look at raw materials, they would look at electricity usage, how efficient is the electricity usage, and so on and so forth, right? In electricity is one of the 246 data points that you have to check for sustainability. So when we give our ratings, we give comprehensive ratings, we give specific scores for environment, social governance, and we also give SDG wise scores. So that means that if you are specifically checking for energy, which is checked for in say an AC or in a mobile device, you will get that information also, right? So ours is basically just more comprehensive, but because it's a tech tool, so it gives you very granular information as well.
All right. So, like, how does the platform approach the challenge of comparing sustainability across, let's say, diverse product types with inherently like different environmental impacts?
No, so it depends on what you're comparing, right? So if you're comparing, if you think that I will compare an Adidas shoe to an electric vehicle, that will not happen. Okay, so I will be comparing only an Adidas shoe to a Nike shoe, or to another brand. Okay, so the industry has to be the same. Industry can't change. If the industry changes, then it's apples and oranges, so you can't compare, right? So you can only compare, but you can get absolute data on carbon emissions. So you could get how much carbon emission is there for making a particular shoe, and you can get how many carbon emissions is there for making a particular EV vehicle, right? You can get stuff like that. which is absolute number. But comparison can only happen across industry because उसका जो industry standard है वो एक ही है ना. So when you're pegging two products, you're pegging it against the same industry standard basically.
All right. So now coming on to that, like integrating sustainability into existing business models is quite a challenging task. Like we all know that. Like how does your company support other companies in transition? Like what are the common challenges that you encounter? Like, can you list a few?
So we don't support anybody on transition. Okay, like I said, ours is a data platform that will give you status quo, what's happening today. Okay, once we do status quo reporting and we give you a bunch of things but generic that you can do on a particular sector, then the decarbonization process starts with another consulting firm. So you think of us like a Bloomberg terminal that exists in a McKinsey. Okay, we are actually the data givers. After that, it is the job of the consultants to come and help in the decarbonization journey, right? So we do not help companies transition. Of course, we can keep scoring them. So after everything, every point that they have achieved, they can check their scores again, and then they can take out information, right? Now that of course is what we have built at the present. Okay, even we can give decarbonization strategies, we can give things that we feel you can do to improve your ratings, but all that work of which vendor, how do we do the transition, all that is the job of a consultant, and we don't get into that space at all.
So your company doesn't play a role in adoption of that technology in the very end. Like you are just data providers.
We are basically which technology. So if we suppose, for example, they don't have any green energy, right? And we tell them that, okay, look at substituting your energy with green sources. And we can even suggest like, okay, you're a rice manufacturer, so you could do biomass. That is something which you can do easily, right? Now, after that, what they want to do, where they want to get in touch, all the role of consultants who are very well equipped to handle these queries with clients.
All right. So my last question would be like, at first you talked about transparency and credibility. Like greenwashing remains a concern for consumers. Like how does EcoRating ensure the transparency and credibility of its rating system is is intact and building trust with the stakeholders?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the most important part, right? Because if you give out a number and a rating and it means nothing, there will be no credibility attached to it, right? So I think that is really the innovation of this company, which is that we have figured out ways to audit the green claims of companies. We are actually the auditors. We come in and say कि अच्छा अगर आप बोल रहे हो कि आपका shoe plastic से बना है, which is coming from Maldives, for example, we're checking whether that is actually happening or not. That's the difference between us and maybe another rating agency provider. That's one big difference, okay, where that we have technology which actually audits findings of companies. And the second part on credibility or on transparency is that, like I said, the entire approach is a white box approach. Okay, so when you see the ratings for the first time, you'll be able to see a number, you'll be able to see ESG, so you'll be able to see things like carbon emissions and all that stuff. You'll even be able to, if you click on that and go to my website, we have a one microsite dedicated to each product, which will basically be able to show you what is the goal wise performance. Do they hire local people? Are they hiring more than the standard, less than the standard? You'll get all that data.